I never thought a simple envelope could shatter my world, but that's exactly what happened on a random Tuesday morning. The letter wasn't even addressed to me. It was for my husband Ryan, marked urgent, financial notice in bold red letters. I probably wouldn't have opened it if I hadn't recognized the return address, Adams Family Holdings LLC. Same last name as my mother-in-law, but definitely not her company. My name is Claire, and until that morning, I thought I knew everything about my family's finances. Ryan and I had always been open with each other about money, or so I believed. We'd built our life together carefully over the past 8 years, both working hard to afford our modest house in the suburbs and provide for our 3-year-old daughter, Emma. The kitchen was quiet except for Emma's cartoons playing in the background as I stared at the envelope. Ryan had already left for work, and my mother-in-law Marjorie wasn't due for her surprise visit for at least another hour. My hands trembled slightly as I ran my finger under the seal. Inside was a single page with a company letterhead I'd never seen before. Final notice, capital call for Adams Family Holdings, LLC. Outstanding balance, $47,000. My coffee went cold on the counter as I read the letter 3 times, trying to make sense of it. $47,000? That was more than our annual mortgage payment. How could Ryan be involved in something this big without telling me? Mommy, look. Emma's voice startled me. She proudly held up a crayon drawing of what looked like a purple elephant wearing a hat. That's beautiful, sweetie, I managed, quickly folding the letter and stuffing it in my pocket. Why don't you draw another one for Grandma? She's coming over later. Emma's face lit up. Can we make cookies with Grandma? Maybe. I forced a smile, though the mention of Marjorie made my stomach twist. She'd been spending more and more time at our house lately, always with some excuse about helping with Emma or teaching me proper housekeeping. As if I couldn't manage my own home. I pulled out my phone and opened our joint banking app. Everything looked normal, the same balance we'd had for months. If Ryan was involved in some business venture, he must have a separate account I didn't know about. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Marjorie was early. Of course she was. Claire, darling. She swept in without waiting for an invitation, perfectly coiffed as always in her designer clothes. I brought some of those organic snacks Emma loves. The ones you never seem to remember to buy. Thanks, Marjorie. I touched the letter in my pocket, wondering if she knew anything about this mysterious company that shared her last name. Actually, I wanted to ask you. Grammy. Emma came running, and Marjorie scooped her up with a triumphant smile. There's my precious girl. Has Mommy been letting you watch those awful cartoons again? You know, Claire, I've sent you several articles about the benefits of educational programming. I bit back a response, my mind still racing about the letter. Should I confront Ryan tonight? Call the company directly? The amount was so specific, $47,000. Not a round number, which meant it had to be real. Claire? Are you even listening? Marjorie's sharp tone cut through my thoughts. I was saying Ryan mentioned you've been distracted lately. Perhaps you're working too much? A mother's place. I need to make a phone call, I interrupted, heading for my home office. Emma, show Grandma your new drawing. As I closed the door behind me, I could hear Marjorie's voice. Your mother seems very stressed today. Good thing Grammy's here to help. I pulled out the letter again, this time noticing something I'd missed before, a handwritten note at the bottom. Final warning before foreclosure proceedings. Contact Marcus Adams immediately. Marcus Adams. Another Adams I'd never heard of, yet somehow connected to my husband and possibly his mother. I grabbed my laptop, determined to find out who he was and what Ryan had gotten himself into. One thing was certain, our perfect little family life was about to change, and I had a feeling Marjorie knew more than she was letting on. The dinner party was my idea, a desperate attempt to appear normal while my world was quietly imploding. 3 days had passed since finding that letter, and Ryan still hadn't mentioned anything about Adams Family Holdings or the mysterious Marcus Adams. Every time I tried to bring up our finances, he'd change the subject or get a conveniently timed call from work. You've overcooked the salmon, Marjorie announced, prodding her fish with a fork. We were seated around our dining room table with Ryan's college friend Tom and his wife Beth, who shot me a sympathetic look. I think it's delicious, Beth offered, but Marjorie wasn't finished. Claire, darling, I've told you before, wild-caught salmon needs exactly 4 minutes per side. And these vegetables. She sighed dramatically. They're from the frozen section, aren't they? I gripped my wine glass tighter, watching Ryan's face for any sign of support. He was suddenly very interested in his water glass. Actually, I said, forcing a smile, I got them fresh from the farmer's market yesterday. The same place you recommended, Marjorie. Well, perhaps you should have let me show you how to properly prepare them. Ryan grew up with home-cooked meals every night. Remember those beautiful dinners, sweetheart? Ryan nodded, still not meeting my eyes. Mom's cooking was always amazing. The conversation drifted to safer topics: Tom's new job, Beth's garden, the weather. I barely listened, instead watching Ryan check his phone under the table every few minutes. Who was he texting? Marcus Adams? His mother? Both? Claire? Beth's voice snapped me back to reality. I was just asking about Emma. How's she doing with preschool? Before I could answer, Marjorie jumped in. Oh, she's struggling, poor thing. I told Claire and Ryan they should have waited another year. 3 is simply too young. But Claire insists on working full-time. Emma's actually thriving. I cut in, my voice sharper than intended. Her teachers say she's one of the most social children in her class. Social doesn't equal prepared, dear. Ryan, tell them about that tantrum she had last week when I picked her up. Ryan cleared his throat. Mom, maybe we should. It wasn't a tantrum, I interrupted. She was upset because you showed up instead of me, without warning. Again. The table fell silent. Beth studied her plate while Tom suddenly became fascinated with his napkin. I'm only trying to help, Marjorie said, her voice dripping with practiced martyrdom. Someone needs to be there for Emma while her mother is off playing career woman. Excuse me. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need to check on dessert. In the kitchen, I braced myself against the counter, trying to steady my breathing. Through the serving window, I could hear Marjorie's voice. Ryan, sweetheart, have you thought more about that investment opportunity we discussed? The timing really is crucial. Investment opportunity? My head snapped up. Was she talking about Adam's family holdings? Not now, Mom, Ryan muttered, but Marjorie pressed on. I just worry about your future. All of your futures. With Claire's. Spending habits. I grabbed my phone and ducked into the pantry, quickly typing Marcus Adams' business into the search bar. The results made my stomach drop. Marcus Adams was Marjorie's brother, Ryan's uncle, and his company had just filed for bankruptcy protection. The pieces started falling into place. The secret investment, Ryan's distance, Marjorie's increased presence in our lives. They'd invested our money, our family's future, in a failing business, and they'd done it behind my back. Claire? Ryan's voice called from the dining room. Do you need help with dessert? I stepped out of the pantry to find him standing in the kitchen doorway, looking uncertain. No, I said quietly, but I think we need to talk about Uncle Marcus. The color drained from his face. Behind him, I could see Marjorie watching us through the serving window, her expression unreadable. After our guests leave, Ryan whispered, glancing nervously toward his mother. Of course, I replied, picking up the apple pie I'd stress-baked earlier. We wouldn't want to ruin Marjorie's dinner party with talk about $47,000 missing dollars, would we? I walked past him back to the dining room, where Beth and Tom sat in uncomfortable silence while Marjorie held court. Game on, I thought. Let's see how long they can keep their secrets. After our guests left, I sat at my laptop in the dark kitchen, staring at years of deception laid bare before me. Ryan's email was still open. He'd forgotten to log out of our shared computer again. The messages between him and his mother went back months, discussing Uncle Marcus's business ventures, investment opportunities, and most importantly, me. Claire doesn't understand business, Marjorie had written. She's too emotional about money. Trust me, darling, mothers know best. Ryan's response made my hands shake. I know, Mom. I'll handle Claire. She doesn't need to know everything. The front door opened and closed softly. Ryan's footsteps approached after walking his mother to her car. I didn't look up from the screen. They're all here, I said quietly. Every email, every secret meeting, every dollar you gave to your uncle's failing company. Ryan froze in the doorway. You're in my email? That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that you and your mother have been lying to me for months. It's not lying, he said, running a hand through his hair. I was protecting our future. Uncle Marcus's company. Is bankrupt, I finished. I looked it up. You gave him our savings, Ryan. Money we were saving for Emma's education. He sat down heavily across from me. Mom said. Of course she did. I turned the laptop toward him. Read this email. The one where your mother calls me a gold digger who trapped you with a baby. She was just upset that day. You know how she gets. Do I? I stood up, pacing the kitchen. Because the Marjorie I thought I knew was just a controlling mother-in-law. Not someone who'd convince her son to steal from his own family. Steal? Ryan's voice rose. It's my money too. Is it? I pulled up another email. Because according to this, you've been funneling your entire bonus checks to Marcus for 2 years. Money we were supposed to split. Money for our family. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Uncle Marcus just needed time, Ryan finally said. The business would have turned around if what? If you'd given him more? Our retirement fund maybe? The house. You're being hysterical. The word hit me like a slap. Hysterical. Marjorie's favorite accusation whenever I disagreed with her. I called the bank today. I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Did you know I could see all the transfers because my name's on the accounts? $47,000, Ryan. That's just the beginning, isn't it? He wouldn't meet my eyes. There were some other investments. How much? Claire. How much? He mumbled something. What? 212,000, he said quietly. Total. The room spun. I gripped the counter to stay upright. Does your mother know? She helped arrange it. She says Uncle Marcus just needs one more quarter too. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. You okay? Call me if you need me. I'd forgotten she was on standby, waiting to hear how the confrontation went. We'd planned it all out this afternoon over coffee, after I'd discovered the emails. I'm staying at Sarah's tonight, I said, closing the laptop. I'm taking Emma. You can't just. Watch me. I headed for the stairs. And Ryan? Check your email tomorrow. You'll find some interesting forwards to our lawyer. Our lawyer. His voice cracked. Claire, please. We can work this out. Mom says. Your mother, I cut him off, is the reason I'm leaving. You chose her over us over and over. Now you can have what you wanted. Just you and Mommy, planning how to spend money you don't have. As I packed a bag for Emma and myself, I could hear Ryan on the phone downstairs, his voice urgent and pleading. I knew who he was calling. Marjorie would arrive within minutes, ready to manage this crisis like she managed everything else. But this time would be different. This time I had evidence. And tomorrow, everyone would know exactly what kind of people the Addams family really were. Sarah's guest room became my war room. Empty coffee cups littered the desk where I'd spent the last 3 days, combing through bank statements and emails, building my case. Emma was adapting better than I'd expected, treating it like an extended sleepover with her aunt, Sarah. You need to see this, Sarah said, handing me her phone. On the screen was Marjorie's latest social media post, a photo of her and Ryan at some charity gala. Captions supporting local businesses with my wonderful son. Family always comes first. I laughed bitterly. Family first? She helped him empty our accounts. Speaking of accounts, Sarah hesitated. Did you check his credit cards? I froze. In all my digging, I'd focused on the bank accounts and investment records. The credit cards hadn't even occurred to me. My hands shook as I logged into our credit card portal. Oh God. What? Sarah leaned over my shoulder. There's a new card. Opened 6 months ago. I scrolled through the statements. Regular charges at the Grand Plaza Hotel downtown. Dinner for 2 at expensive restaurants. Jewelry purchases. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. Claire. He's seeing someone. The words felt like glass in my throat. All this time I thought it was just about his mother and the money, but a knock at the door made us both jump. Sarah went to answer it while I quickly wiped my eyes. Claire? Ryan's voice carried down the hallway. I know you're here. Please, we need to talk. I stepped into the hallway, keeping my distance. He looked terrible, unshaven, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Good. Who is she? I asked quietly. What? The woman you've been meeting at the Grand Plaza. The one you buy jewelry for. His face went pale. That's not. I can explain. Is she one of Uncle Marcus's employees? Someone your mother introduced you to? No. Those charges. They're for Mom. I stared at him. What? The hotel has the spa package she likes. And the jewelry. It's her birthday next month. I was trying to make up for some bad investments. With more secret spending? I shook my head. You're still lying, Ryan. Even now. I'm not. Look, I know I messed up with Uncle Marcus's business, but Mom really thought. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop talking about your mother. For once in your life, can you think for yourself? Emma's voice drifted from Sarah's kitchen, singing along to some cartoon. Ryan's eyes darted toward the sound. Let me see her, he pleaded. She needs her father. She needs stability and honesty. Two things you clearly can't provide. I'll tell you everything. About Uncle Marcus, the business, all of it. Just come home. Mom says she'll back off, give us space. Mom says. I laughed. You still don't get it. This isn't about your mother anymore. It's about you choosing her over us every single time. That's not fair. Neither is emptying our savings without telling me. Neither is lying about credit cards and hotel meetings. Sarah appeared beside me, arms crossed. I think you should leave, Ryan. He ignored her. Claire, please. I got us tickets to Italy. A family vacation, just the three of us. No mom, no business talk. We can fix this. The invitation caught me off guard. Italy had always been our dream trip. Planned but never taken because something always came up, usually involving Marjorie or family obligations. When did you book these tickets? I asked. Last week. Right after. Everything. With what money? His silence was answer enough. Let me guess, your mother offered to pay. I turned away. Goodbye, Ryan. Claire. I'll have my lawyer contact you about visitation arrangements for Emma. As Sarah showed him out, I returned to the guest room and its wall of evidence. The Italy tickets were just another manipulation, another way to sweep everything under the rug. But maybe I could use this. Turn their game around on them. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app. The settlement account I'd opened yesterday was ready. Time to show Ryan and Marjorie what happened when they underestimated me. Hey Sarah, I called out. How do you feel about a trip to Italy? The cafe near my office felt like neutral territory as I waited for Ryan to arrive. After 2 weeks of communicating through lawyers, he'd finally agreed to discuss the Italy trip without his mother present. I'd spent those weeks planning, preparing, making sure every detail was perfect. Sorry I'm late. Ryan slid into the seat across from me, looking more put together than the last time I'd seen him. Traffic was. Your mother's car is parked around the corner, I interrupted. I saw her drop you off. He had the decency to look embarrassed. She was worried about me making decisions without her input? I pulled out the Italy itinerary I'd prepared. Here's the deal, Emma and I will go with you to Italy. 2 weeks, separate rooms, and most importantly, no Marjorie. Claire, be reasonable. Mom already booked her ticket. Of course she had. I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch. Fine, I finally said. Marjorie can come. But I have conditions. Ryan's relief was visible. Anything. First, separate hotels. You and your mother can stay wherever you want, but Emma and I will be at the villa I've chosen. Mom won't like. Second, I continued, I want access to all the financial records. Everything about Uncle Marcus's business, the investments, the credit cards. My lawyer needs them by tomorrow. His face darkened. That's not. And third, I slid a document across the table. You'll sign this agreement giving me sole custody of Emma during the trip. What? No way. Then no Italy. I started gathering my things. Emma and I can vacation somewhere else. Wait. He grabbed my wrist. Please. I miss her. I miss you. I pulled away. Should have thought of that before letting your mother run our lives. She means well, he insisted. The business deal was just bad timing. Uncle Marcus is working on paying everyone back. Everyone. I raised an eyebrow. How many people did you and your mother convince to invest? His silence told me everything. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Documents received. You were right about Marcus Adams. I smiled. While Ryan had been busy coordinating with his mother, I'd been doing my own research. Uncle Marcus's business was starting to look less like bad investments and more like a family-run Ponzi scheme. 1 week, I said. That's my final offer. 7 days in Italy, starting with 3 days in Rome. You and Marjorie stay at least 5 kilometers from our villa. But those are my terms. Take them or leave them. He stared at the custody agreement. And if I sign this, then we leave next Friday. Emma gets to see her father, and everyone gets what they want. What do you want, Claire? I thought about the evidence building in Sarah's spare room, the paper trail leading straight to Marjorie's carefully hidden accounts. I want justice. For what? A few bad investments. No. I stood up. 4 years of manipulation. For watching you choose your mother over your daughter. For every time Marjorie undermined me while you stood silent. She's coming on this trip, he said firmly. I'm counting on it. As I walked out, I saw Marjorie's car pull up. She'd been waiting, probably expecting Ryan to cave to my demands. But she didn't know about my meetings with other victims of Marcus's scheme, or the documents Sarah had uncovered about Marjorie's role in it all. Let them think they'd won. Let them believe I was desperate to save my marriage. In 1 week, we'd all be in Italy, and I'd finally show them what happened when you pushed too far. My phone buzzed again. Sarah, flight confirmations received. Operation Karma is go. I smiled, thinking of the villa I'd rented, coincidentally right next door to one of Marcus's biggest investors. A widow who'd lost everything to the Addams family scheme. Marjorie had no idea what was waiting for her in Rome. Game on, I whispered, watching Ryan climb into his mother's car. Game on. Rome was supposed to be beautiful in June. Instead, the suffocating heat matched the tension at our family dinner in Trastevere. Emma picked at her pasta while Marjorie held court, detailing everything wrong with my choice of restaurant. The sauce is clearly store-bought, she announced, waving down the waiter. Ryan, darling, remember that lovely place we found this morning? The one with the proper Italian chef. I gripped my wine glass tighter. 3 days into our trip, and Marjorie had somehow crashed every single activity I'd planned, despite our agreement about separate accommodations. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have a meeting tomorrow morning. With Isabella Rossi. The color drained from Marjorie's face. Ryan looked confused. Who's Isabella Rossi? He asked. Just another one of Uncle Marcus's investors. I smiled at Marjorie. You remember her, don't you? The widow who lost her life savings. Marjorie's fork clattered against her plate. Ryan, I'm feeling rather unwell. Perhaps we should. She's not the only one I'm meeting, I continued. There's quite a group of them here in Rome. Funny coincidence, isn't it? Claire, Ryan warned. If this is about the business, it's about everything. I turned to Marjorie. Tell him. Tell him how you and Marcus targeted grieving widows. How you used Ryan to convince them to invest. I did no such thing. Marjorie es voice. Marcus made his own choices. I merely helped him find victims? I pulled out a folder. I have the emails, Marjorie. Every single one. Mommy. Emma's small voice cut through the tension. I don't feel good. I reached for her just as she threw up all over the table. Chaos erupted, Marjorie jumping back in disgust, Ryan calling for the waiter, me trying to comfort Emma. She's burning up, I said, touching her forehead. The heat, Marjorie declared. I told you this restaurant was unsuitable. She needs a doctor, Ryan said. I'll take her back to our villa. I stood up, gathering Emma in my arms. Don't be ridiculous, Marjorie cut in. Our hotel has a doctor on call. Ryan, help Claire bring her there. No. I held Emma tighter. We're going to our villa. But Emma's fever spiked during the taxi ride. By the time we arrived, she was barely conscious. The local doctor took one look and insisted on hospitalization. She's severely dehydrated, he explained in broken English. Need tests, observation. The next hours blurred in a haze of hospital corridors and Italian medical terms I couldn't understand. Ryan handled the paperwork while Marjorie mysteriously disappeared, claiming she needed to make some calls. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Sarah, Isabella called. Marjorie's trying to leave the country. Flight booked for 6 a.m. I looked at Emma, finally sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed, and 4 in her tiny arm. Ryan dozed in a chair nearby. Everything I'd planned, all my careful revenge, None of it mattered now. Another text from Sarah. Police are ready. Just say the word. I stepped into the hallway, my finger hovering over the reply button. Through the window, I could see the lights of Rome, mocking all my schemes and plans. Claire? Ryan's voice behind me. The doctor wants to talk about Emma's tests. I turned, and the look on his face stopped my heart. They found something, he said quietly. Something that might explain why she's been so tired lately. They want to run more tests, but what? They're saying it might be serious. Really serious. His voice cracked. Mom's already calling specialists in the States. Of course she was. Even now, Marjorie was taking control. I looked at my phone again, at Sarah's waiting message. I could end this right now. One text and Marjorie would be arrested before she could board her flight. Everything I'd discovered about her role in Marcus's scheme would come to light. But Emma needed us. All of us, focused on her, not on revenge. I deleted Sarah's message and walked back into Emma's room, where machines beeped steadily, and my daughter looked so small against the white hospital sheets. Sometimes karma had to wait. The hospital's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as I stared at the test results in my hands. Anemia. Not cancer or anything life-threatening, just severe anemia that had gone unnoticed for months. Emma would be fine with proper treatment, but I couldn't shake the guilt. How had I missed the signs while plotting my revenge? I've arranged everything. Marjorie swept into the waiting room, designer handbag swinging. The private jet is waiting. We'll have Emma back in the States by morning. What jet? I looked up from the paperwork. The doctor said she can travel commercially once her iron levels. Don't be difficult, Claire. Ryan's already agreed. Of course he had. I found him in Emma's room, packing her things. You're letting her do this? I asked. Mom knows the best specialists. She's already scheduled appointments. Without consulting me, I grabbed the backpack from his hands. I'm her mother. You can't just. Can't what? Marjorie appeared behind me. Can't ensure my granddaughter gets proper care? The care you clearly failed to provide. Something snapped inside me. Like you provided care for those investors? For Isabella Rossi's children who lost their college funds. Mom. Ryan's voice wavered. What's she talking about? I pulled out my phone, opening the email folder I'd been saving. Show him, Marjorie. Show him how you and Marcus targeted grieving families. How you used their children's futures to fund your lifestyle. This is hardly the time, Marjorie started. It's exactly the time. I handed Ryan my phone. Read them. Every email where she coached Marcus on which widows to approach. How to use their grief to manipulate them. Ryan scrolled through the messages, his face growing paler. Mom, these can't be real. They're taken out of context, Marjorie insisted. I was trying to help Marcus rebuild. By stealing from people like Isabella? I cut in. Her husband died of the same cancer you claimed would kill Emma if we didn't take your private jet right now. The room fell silent except for Emma's steady breathing and the quiet beep of monitors. You knew, Ryan whispered. You knew she just had anemia, didn't you? Marjorie's facade cracked slightly. I was trying to protect us. Once Claire started meeting with those investors. Those victims, I corrected. We need to leave now, Marjorie insisted. Before she ruins everything. Ryan, help me with Emma's things. Ryan didn't move. Did Uncle Marcus really lose their money? Of course not. Marjorie snapped. It's all safely invested in. In your offshore accounts? I pulled out another document. Sarah's good with computers, Marjorie. Really good. You had no right. I had every right. My voice rose enough to make Emma stir. I lowered it again. You stole our money, manipulated my husband, and tried to take my daughter. Take your daughter? Marjorie laughed. I'm trying to save this family. No, Ryan said quietly. You're trying to save yourself. The look Marjorie gave him could have frozen hell. After everything I've done for you. You mean like bankrupting us? Ryan scrolled through more emails. Using me to convince people to invest their life savings in a scam? Ryan, please. Get out. He didn't shout it. He didn't have to. The police are waiting downstairs, I said. Isabella and the others pressed charges this morning. You can either walk down there yourself, or I can call them up here. Marjorie straightened her designer jacket, dignity wrapped around her like armor. You'll regret this. Both of you. No, I said, moving to Emma's bedside. We already regret not doing it sooner. We watched her walk out, head high, straight into the arms of waiting Italian police officers. Ryan sank into the chair by Emma's bed, still clutching my phone. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have seen it. Should have stopped her. You did, I said. Just now. You finally did. Emma stirred, blinking sleepily. Where's Grammy going? I stroked her hair, feeling the weight of years lift from my shoulders. Grammy's going away for a while, sweetie. But we're going to be okay. For the first time in months, I actually believed it. 6 months after Rome, I stood in our empty house, watching the movers load the last of Ryan's belongings into their truck. Emma played in the backyard, her energy fully restored, while Sarah helped me sort through old photos. Look at this one, Sarah said, holding up a picture from my wedding. Marjorie's face when you smashed cake into Ryan's face. She looked ready to commit murder. She did worse than that, I replied, thinking of the trial next month. Isabella and the other victims had recovered most of their money, but the emotional damage was done. Marjorie's plea deal meant she'd serve minimal time, though her reputation was destroyed. The doorbell rang. Ryan stood there, looking uncertain in jeans and a t-shirt. No more expensive suits bought with stolen money. Just came to say goodbye to Emma, he said. And to give you this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, a big one. It's everything I could recover from Mom's accounts, he explained. I know it doesn't make up for. No, I agreed. It doesn't. Emma's squeal of daddy broke the tension. She launched herself into his arms, and for a moment, I saw the man I'd married, before his mother's influence, before the lies. Uncle Marcus called, Ryan said quietly while Emma showed him her new drawings. He's making full restitution to everyone Mom involved in the scheme, selling his houses, his boats, everything. Better late than never. I tucked the check away. How is she? Angry. Bitter. She still thinks she did nothing wrong. He sighed. The therapist says it might take years to unpack all her control issues. And you? Working on it. The new job's helping, being away from finance, doing something honest. Emma tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Ryan looked at me questioningly. We'd stuck to supervised visits since Italy, but something had shifted. Maybe it was the therapy he'd started, or the way he'd testified against his mother despite her emotional manipulation. Or maybe it was just time. Go ahead, I said. Just have her back before dinner. After they left, Sarah helped me take down the last of the family photos. You sure about this? She asked. The house has good memories too. It's time for new memories. I looked around the empty living room. Besides, the apartment near Emma's new school is perfect. And being closer to you won't hurt. Speaking of new beginnings. Sarah hesitated. Isabella called. She's starting a support group for families affected by financial fraud. She thinks your experience could help others. I thought about the letter that had started everything, still tucked away in my desk. How different would things be if I'd just confronted Ryan immediately? If I'd never planned my elaborate revenge? You know what's funny? I said, packing the last photo album. I spent months plotting revenge against Marjorie, but in the end, the truth was enough. She destroyed herself. And Ryan, he's trying. That's more than his mother ever did. Through the window, I could see Emma's abandoned swing set swaying in the breeze. Soon another family would make memories here, unknowing of the drama these walls had witnessed. My phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. Emma wants to know if you'll join us for ice cream. Says it's not the same without Mommy. I looked at Sarah, who smiled knowingly. Go, she said. Healing happens in small steps. As I drove to the ice cream shop, I thought about karma and revenge, about justice and forgiveness. Marjorie had taught me more than she'd ever intended. About strength, about standing up for what's right, and about letting go. Emma waved frantically when I pulled up, chocolate ice cream already smeared across her face. Ryan sat nearby, looking both hopeful and uncertain. Mommy, I saved you a seat. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something better from the ashes they left behind. I sat down with my daughter and her father, ready to see what we could build.